The Traveller was first sighted in the early 21st century, moving from the moons of Jupiter to Mercury and Venus, terraforming them as it went. Eventually it came to rest on Mars. It was decided that a team would be launched to intercept it. This team would be called Ares 1. They became famous, as they were the first to make contact with the Traveller. And thus began the Golden Age, where humans would spread across our solar system and advance to extremes in science we'd never imagined. But it would not last. During the colonization of Venus, we discovered ancient ruins much older than anything we'd ever seen. These ruins belonged to the Vex, and we began to study them. Soon after, the Exos were created. We don't know their original purpose. Soldiers, labor force, it's unknown. Along with the Exos, the war mines were also created to watch over our defenses, just in case we needed them. And we did need them. One of the war mines witnessed an event outside our solar system, and that event was coming closer. So the war mine declared sky shock, OCP extinction. The entirety of humanity was put on alert, but it was not enough. This was the darkness, an ancient enemy of the Traveller that had seeked it out once again. The darkness obliterated our defenses, so fast that no records of them even remain. A great fleet fled Earth in an attempt to escape the darkness. As the war mine Rasputin declared Yuga Sundown, a cancellation of the defenses of humanity, and went into a long sleep to wait for reactivation. The Traveller, however, did not stand idly by and fought back against the darkness. With one last effort, it pushed back the darkness, but it did not recover. The shockwave that resulted from the Traveller fighting back against the darkness destroyed the human fleet that fled. The radiation and exposure to both the light and dark changed them, and this was the birth of the Awoken. They built a home for themselves out of the derelict ships, and they called it the Reef. The Traveller used the last of its power to create ghosts, who would search the battlefields and seek out individuals, special individuals, and bring them back to fight as guardians, who would protect what remained of humanity. These guardians began to seek out where the Traveller had finally come to rest, during which time the Fallen arrived. The Fallen, or Elixni as they once called themselves, were once a great empire that was visited by a great machine. It is widely assumed this was the Traveller, and the Fallen followed the Traveller as it left, because when it left, it destroyed their civilization as they knew it. Now scavengers, torn by houses and Kells who lead them, they began to pick at what was left of humanity, burning cities to the ground and raiding strongholds for anything they could find. During the collapse, as it would later be known, the Vex awoke, and consumed and converted the entirety of Mercury into a great machine within a matter of days. Its purpose is still yet unknown. Once the Guardians finally discovered the Traveller's location, they began to help and lead the remnants of humanity to safety beneath it, where a city quickly formed. But as the city was forming, the Fallen attacked. They are believed to have pushed an attack on the city, and the Guardians fought back. 6 great entry points to the city were defended by the Guardians, and the Guardians managed to finally push them back. This would be known as the Battle of the Six Fronts. But as is common, many people had different ideas about how humanity would return to its lost glory, and soon these conflicting ideas turned violent, and the faction wars began. The Guardians stepped up and stopped the civil war, creating a government formed by a consensus representing the people, the Vanguard, who represented the Guardians, and the Speaker, a mysterious man who was able to commune with the Traveller. This is when the Hive appeared. They took over the newly undefended moon and began to convert it into a fortress world. So soon after the success of the Battle of Six Fronts, the Guardians confidently ventured onto the moon to combat this unknown enemy. The results were disastrous. thousands of Guardians were lost, their light devoured by a single general leading the Hive. We later discovered his name, Crota, son of Oryx. After the Guardians retreated from the moon, Crota seemed to go dormant. The Hive seemed content with the moon for now, and so the Vanguard declared the moon off limits, lest we provoke the Hive into a counterattack. A warlock by the name of Toland let his obsession to understand the Hive overtake him. He began to go mad. He was dubbed Toland the Shattered and exiled from the city. His last known whereabouts were him leading a fire team deep into the moon, into the Hive fortress. At this time, an unknown fallen leader began to unite the fallen houses in preparation for an assault on the city. The largest of the House of Wolves, was intercepted en route by the Queen of the Awoken, Mara Sov, in a surprise attack. She destroyed the dwarf planet Ceres, where the wolves were stationed, decimating half their fleet, and killing Virixas, the Kell of Wolves. When their leader was dead, the wolves scattered to the reef, where they were systematically hunted down. The resulting battles were known as the Reef Wars. During this time, many leaders of the wolves rose and fell, the last being Skolas. Mara claimed the remaining wolves as her own, with the help of Varix the Loyal, the last of the House of Judgment. Believing they had been betrayed by the House of Wolves, the remaining Fallen proceeded with their plans to invade the city, in an effort to reclaim their great machine. The Battle of the Twilight Gap ensued. The Guardians emerged victorious, but not without great losses, and a weapon was forged to commemorate the Fallen. Made from pieces of the fallen Guardian's armor, the Gjallarhorn was born. And this is where our journey starts. A ghost came across a candidate for a Guardian in the ruins of the Cosmodrome, and revived them. Fleeing from the Fallen, you find a ship, and use it to get to the tower, the home of the Guardians. But your escape is not unnoticed. It is observed by the Stranger. Your travels take you back to the Cosmodrome, where it is discovered that the Hive finally ventured to Earth. In an attempt to find out more, you activate the Cosmodrome arrays, waking Rasputin, who quickly takes control and begins claiming assets around the solar system. In an effort to learn more about the Hive, you venture to the moon, where you were told no Guardian had set foot in years. A quick survey shows this is not the case, and you follow the tracks of a Guardian to a Hive stronghold, the Temple of Crota, where you find the Guardian dead, stripped of his light. All the while you are still being stalked by the Stranger. The Speaker contacts you, informing you of a ritual the Hive are undertaking somewhere on the moon that is draining the traveler. You set off to locate and stop the ritual. Once the ritual is stopped and those involved dead, it is discovered that a shard of the traveler was used to perform it. Once freed, the shard returns to the traveler. But during your search for the ritual, the Stranger finally contacts you, inviting you to meet on Venus, should you survive. You arrive on Venus and travel to the coordinates given, only to be ambushed by the Vex. Once they are defeated, the Stranger finally shows herself. Not much is revealed about her, only that she was not born in the light, and as such is not a Guardian. And she was also in contact with someone who was running from something. She informs you about something happening in the Black Garden, a Vex stronghold. She also informs you that once whatever's happening is stopped, the traveler will once again begin to heal. Only your ghost soon informs you that to learn the location of the Black Garden, we have to go deal with the Awoken at the reef. Once you arrive, you are escorted to see Mara Sov herself, and she instructs you to kill a Vex Gate Lord. In doing so, you come into possession of its eye, which Mara then informs you is required to get into the Black Garden, which is located in the Meridian Bay on Mars, inside the exclusion zone. Sometime during the collapse, or at least soon after, the Cabal claimed huge swaths of territory on Mars, deeming it the exclusion zone, seemingly preparing for a battle, but rather than attacking they seemed to be fleeing something. Venturing deep into the exclusion zone, you find a way to power the Gate Lord's Eye, and finally enter the Black Garden, where it is discovered the Vex are worshipping a Heart of Darkness. The heart animates stone soldiers in its defense, but it is not enough. With the defeat of the heart, your guardian returns to the tower, where a celebration is being held, only to be greeted once again by the stranger, who informs you that the battle is far from over. She was right. Sometime during the formation of the city, a fire team of guardians led by Kaba seek out the fabled Vault of Glass, a Vex underground with untold secrets. They eventually find and crack the vault, venturing deep inside. But they were not prepared. The Vex use oracles to focus on the Guardians, and imagine a reality where they never existed, then make it real, obliterating the Guardians completely. Only Kaba survived. He managed to destroy a Gorgon, another machine with the same ability as the oracles, and used parts from it to form the Aegis, a shield against the Vex, locking its wielders in time, protecting them from obliteration. But Kaba didn't last, and he was lost within the vault. Following the clues left by Kaba, you find your way to the Vault of Glass, and learn of his fireteam's fate. You venture deep into the vault, use the Aegis to finally shut down Atheon, a Vex mind whose sole purpose was to calculate an existence where only the Vex remained. It is believed that Atheon is what powered the Gorgons and Oracles. Once he was defeated, the vault went dead. Curiously, to those outside the vault, these events never happened. With Atheon's destruction, it seemed as though he'd never existed. Eris Morn, the last known survivor of the fire team that Tolan the Shattered led into the Hive fortress, returns to the tower. Changed by the darkness, but still bent on the Hive's destruction. She claims that not only does Crota still live, that he is preparing for another venture into our world and an assault on Earth. Believing that she has been tainted by the darkness, the Vanguard dismiss her claims, all except Ikora Rey, who believes her. You help Eris push back Crota's forces, and finally stop a ritual that was meant to wake Crota and bring him into our realm. But not satisfied with that, you lead a fire team down into the Hellmouth, the entrance to the Hive fortress, into a pocket dimension controlled by the Hive. Making your way through Crota's domain, you finally come face to face with him, and use the power of his own sword to destroy him, killing him for good. But the peace does not last. The Nine, beings of unknown origin or make, are in league with the Reef, and as such, the Awoken gift them Skolas as a peace offering. For an unknown reason, the Nine order Zur, their agent, to release Skolas and give him a catch. Freed from his prison, he quickly takes control of the House of Wolves, killing many Awoken in the process, and Mara Sov opens the Reef to the Guardians in an attempt to enlist their help to hunt down Skolas. It is quickly learned that he wishes to unite the Fallen under one banner once again, becoming the Kell of Kells himself. And to do so, he makes his move on what remains of the Vault of Glass. And inside the vault, he learns away inside the Vex Citadel, a towering Vex ruin. Inside the Citadel, he glimpses time and other realities, and realizes he can bring forth the wolves from the other realities into ours, and begins using Vex technologies to do just that. This is where you finally face Skolas, defeating him and letting him finally be captured by the Awoken once again, to face much stricter punishment this time. It is believed that Skolas glimpsed something through time in the Vex Citadel. It is unknown what, as all he muttered about when he was interrogated was the Light Snuffer, the Dark Binder. After these events, Eris Morn comes before the Queen and tells her that the time for a unified force between the Reef and the Tower is now. For she believes the Hive God King Oryx is coming, and he wants revenge for his son.
But all actions have consequences.
You took my son!
We've angered a god, the Taken King, who promises to bring our destruction. Most would think it wise to run. But we're the line between survival and extinction. We're guardians, and guardians don't flee, they fight. Join us and become legend.